What's up guys, you're watching Life by TCG, another tournament report for you with Legacy Death Shadow and a little bit of a sideboard update as well. So this tournament was another sort of small locals, 5 rounds into top 8. I squeaked into top 8 on tiebreakers because my record in the Swiss was only 3-2, and then I made it all the way to the finals where I unfortunately lost only like 11 packs or something for second, but it was just like a casual event hosted by my friend to celebrate his retiring, not really retiring, but his like contract is up and he's flying back to his home country, so we were just celebrating his like time in the Legacy community here in Singapore. So the list I played is very similar to what I posted in my previous video with this deck, especially the main deck. So we'll just quickly run through it. 4 Death Shadow, 4 Vantress Gargoyle, 4 Street Wraith, 4 Tourach, 4 Brainstorm, 4 Force of Negation, 4 Daze, 4 Thoughtseize. I don't have the actual copies to show you because they're in my Pioneer deck right now. 4 Ponder, should be 4 Ponder, then 2 Stubborn Denial, 2 Dismember, 1 Fatal Push and 1 Preordain. So I think the only change from the build I posted previously is that I cut the Reanimate for a Preordain, because the mana base is also the same for Wasteland, 2 Underground Sea, 4 Watery Grave, and then 8 Fetchlands. Importantly, all the Fetchlands are blue now. I'm not playing like Marsh Flats or Verdant Catacombs anymore, even though all of the lands are swamps still, Watery Grave and Underground Sea. And you'll see that why that is when I get to the sideboard. So a recent development in Legacy is the Houndstreak of Goddik, slash also known as HD Kaiser. Played Grixis Delver with some interesting sideboard technology. He played Mystic Sanctuary in his sideboard along with 2 copies of Painful Truths. Painful Truths is a 3-mana sorcery that costs 2 and a black, and it has the keyword Converge. So for every color of mana you spend on it, when you cast it, you draw 1 card and you lose 1 life. So in a Grixis deck, potentially you can pay blue, red and black on it, and you pay 3 life and you draw 3 cards. So the idea behind him putting that in his sideboard is it just helps him like grind out so many different matchups. Along with the Mystic Sanctuary that he also played, you can like loop it back whenever you need to, and you sort of just like cut your delvers, and you're not really trying to be so aggro, but you just like bury your opponents in card advantage by looping this sorcery that draws you a bunch of cards. And of course, in Death Shadow we can't play Painful Truths, because we're only 2 colors, right? It would just be like a really bad divination slash read the bones, because we can't play the 3rd color to converge it to its full potential. But the card that we of course can play, which I have used a bunch in the past, which you'll know if you've been watching my videos, is Infernal Contract. So it's also a 3-mana sorcery that draws a bunch of cards. Rather than drawing 1 card and losing 1 life for every mana that you spend on it, straight up you lose half your life, but you draw 4 cards. So usually this is going to cost you more life than 3, because unless you have 6 or less life, half your life rounded up is going to be more than 3. But it also draws you 1 more card than Painful Truths can, and that's pretty relevant obviously. 3 cards is a lot less than 4, just like how Shambling Shell is a lot worse than Golgari Thug, or however you want to think about it. That number of cards makes a big difference. So of course I was already playing some Infernal Contract on my sideboard because I felt like you know, that effect is good against control decks. You just stack off a bunch of cards and then grind them out. But the HJ Kaiser decklist sort of inspired me to maybe like try leaning into this effect a bit more. So I'm also playing a second copy of this. You can split it with Infernal Bargain if you want, which is another card that has the exact same effect but just a different name. So you play around like Surgical or whatever a bit better maybe. And then also the Mystic Sanctuary. And then apart from these 3 cards, the rest of the sideboard, 2 Liliana the Last Hope, 2 Plague Engineer, 2 Liliana's Triumph, 2 Force of Negation, 2 Ratchet Bomb, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, and 1 Surgical. Remember, I'm not playing Jace Prince Prodigy or Reanimate in the main deck anymore, and Cage is just a little bit better than something like Surgical versus the decks like Dredge and Reach. So yeah, so the one of the fears I had with this deck was that compared to the Grixis Delver list, which plays so many more resilient threats, in Grixis you have things like Young Pyromancer, you have Dreadhorde Arcanist, you have Bedlam Reveler, you have all these creatures that provide additional value, whereas in Death Shadow all your creatures are just like vanilla B6, like they're efficiently costed and they have a lot of power and toughness, like the Gargoyle and the Shadow itself, but those attributes don't really matter against things like Oko and Icefang Coatl, whereas, you know, if your creature has like a big enter the battlefield effect, or it generates a bunch of tokens, or like even if your opponent blocks it with the Icefang, at least if it was like Dreadhorde Arcanist and you attacked and then you played a Ponder or something, like at least it replaced itself. So I thought that those factors would mean that this Death Shadow deck would like struggle to grind versus those kind of Bat Miracles lists. But actually, the combination of the Infernal Contract package plus the Liliana creates a real problem for that deck. A lot of them are not playing AK anymore, they're playing Coatl instead. And then once they do that, it becomes a lot more difficult for them to grind versus you, because Coatl, it will never get to a point where it's like Ancestral Recall, like an Accumulated Knowledge can. It just replaces itself. And then if you can instantly kill it with like a Liliana activation, then it just represents like not really any grind potential at all. And then while you're doing this, you use Infernal Contract to draw a bunch of cards, and then from there you just make sure like you counter their Oko, and then you basically win. It isn't really too difficult to manage that at all. So yeah, overall I'm actually really impressed with this list. One thing I might think about is maybe moving one of the Force of Negations to the main deck over either one of the stubs or the one of the Stub of Denials or the Preordain, just to open up more space in the sideboard, perhaps for more removal. Or you could play another removal spell in the main deck, like another Fatal Push or a Snuff Out or something. I think that's the angle I would look at maybe tweaking, but apart from that I'm really happy with everything else. So yeah, I would say that, so just my matchups, round 1 I lost to Eldrazi Stompy, then round 2 I beat Infect. I just bought it out. I bought it out all 8 of my creatures. My only win conditions were Plague Engineer beatdowns or Liliana Emblem, and it wasn't too hard to win after sideboarding. Yeah, so I beat Eldrazi Stompy. No, I lost to Eldrazi Stompy, sorry. Then I beat Infect. Then I beat Aggro Loam. Then I lost to Delver, which is part of the reason why I feel like the remove was a bit lacking, because it was a little bit scary getting tempoed out by like their stifles and stuff, when all of your removal is either like edicts that cost 2 mana or dismember that cost you a chunk of life. But you know, those kind of strategies aren't super popular right now, so maybe that's not too important. Yeah, so I lost to Delver, and then I beat Moon Stompy. So then I squeaked into the top 8. I had the best breakers out of the 3/2s. I was the only 9-pointer that made it into the top 8. Even though I lost round 1 somehow, I don't know how that happened. But yeah, so on the top 8, I beat like a Stryfo Pile kind of deck, like a Grove of the Burn Willows 4-color control thing. Then I beat the Delver player. Yeah, remember I'm on the draw in all of these games because I'm 8th place. So yeah, I beat the Rug player. And at least those games are fun, like not like versus the Chalice decks. And then in the finals I lost to like the big Eldrazi list with the Thran Dynamo and stuff. Kind of close games. I probably could have won game 1. I hinted Tourach my opponent's 3-card hand, and they had 2 lands and the 8-mana Ugin, and I discarded their 2 lands, and then they Ugin me the next turn. So sometimes that's just how it goes. But yeah, Infernal Contract is the real deal. That's what I would say. And the demise of Shadow has perhaps been greatly exaggerated. Anyway, this is Live Fight TCG signing out.